It's an impressive victory for Lennox Lewis.
He worked his way up through the ranks, started getting a little better, and he kept going. Next thing you know, he's national champion, and then the Olympics.
That was a look at the new Crave documentary, Lennox Lewis, The Untold Story, detailing the incredible journey of one of the most respected names in boxing. Alongside legends like Rocky Marciano and Muhammad Ali, he retired as the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He's also an Olympic gold medalist and member of the Order of Canada. Please welcome to the social, Lennox Lewis.
Hey.
Hey, welcome to the show. So wonderful to have you with us, Lennox. Listen, you're kind of, in a way, getting back in the ring with now choosing to tell your story, and it is a great one. Why was now the time to share your life story?
I think it was important at this time because, there's a lot of documentaries out there on different people. And I felt this was the right time for me to show my documentary and for people that didn't know my story to know about my story and the travel and, it wasn't just a bed of roses. I had my ups and downs and, I had different problems in front of me, but I overcame them.
Well, let's go back to the beginning of the story because I don't know if everyone knows about your Canadian connection. You grew up in Kitchener, Ontario. So as a young kid, Lennox, how did growing up in Canada help to shape who you've gone on to become?
I think, just with the overall people I met in Canada, my coach, Arnie Beam, a police officer, Hook McComb, different people that I came in contact with really helped to shape my life. And even the cold helped to shape my life. I didn't know anything about the snow when I first came over here. And, I learned about winter sports and it's okay to go out in the cold. It's not you don't have to stay inside. You can go outside and have fun.
Well, as Jess mentioned, you do, of course, have some roots here in Canada, but you also have roots in Jamaica and also the United Kingdom. And you decided when you turned pro to do so under the UK flag as opposed to Canada. We're curious to know why.
Part of the reason is because there was no real professional boxing in Canada. And, I had the opportunity of going to America or to England. So instead of going to America where, you had Holyfield, Mike Tyson, a whole heap of different boxers, England was a place where, there was only a couple of boxers over there. And I had to defeat them to show that, I'm the Commonwealth champion, I'm the European champion, and now the world champion.
Historically, boxing has been seen and certainly written about as an intellectual sport, a real, truly mental game. And I love the clip in the doc, that moment when you say boxing is the art of the sweet science. It's not street fighting. And a lot of your career was based on this sort of brains over bruising type of boxing. Here's what I want to ask you about. Do you worry this approach is being eroded in the sport that we are seeing today?
No, not really. Boxing is a sport where it changes people's lives, from one situation off to another situation, and it helps people's lives as well. And, I think the people that don't put the work into it and put the effort into it and think it's a show, the other day there was a basketball player trying to play boxing. And I was like, yo, we don't play boxing. Boxing is such a serious sport. It's a dangerous sport. It's a sport to be taken seriously, and it teaches you a lot of life skills as well. So it's a good sport for kids.
This is one of my favorite parts in the documentary, and it was going back to your infamous fight with Mike Tyson in 2002. We actually learned that you and Mike go back all the way to when you were much younger, 15 and 16 years of age. And you went on to beat Tyson in the 8th round in that infamous match, but it was the footage at the press conference beforehand, that stare down, that really gets the spotlight here because Tyson takes a swipe at somebody on your security team. And in the doc, we hear your team say, "We knew we won at that moment." Why is it that they felt so confident that you had won before the fight?
Well, the fight wasn't even done yet, and they were confident. I think it was the fact that, Mike Tyson, he was trying to really intimidate me, and I wasn't intimidated. A lot of people go into a fight, and part of the fight is lost already because they get intimidated. They look at the guy and say, "Ooh, that guy looks strong. He's gonna hurt me." So automatically when they step into the ring, they're defensively. They're not thinking about the offense of winning. They're thinking about protecting themselves. So in that way, they can lose a fight before they step in the ring. So in this situation with Mike Tyson, where he attacked my group, it was a situation where we weren't backing down, we weren't being intimidated, we were focused, and we knew our goal, and we knew what we wanted to do.
I want to go back to another infamous match between you and Evander Holyfield, that your first fight with him. It was incredible to revisit that in the doc. And a lot of people believed you were robbed of the win. I think there was collective shock. And George Foreman even called the decision a shame. Your face kind of said it all. But what was going through your head when the announcement was read?
I couldn't believe it. I was like, what's going on? They didn't tabulate the fight correctly. They needed to recheck the scores. And then I couldn't believe the fact that, this is a historic moment, because a lot of boxers go through this, they've gone through close matches where you win the fight, and then all of a sudden it's something else when it comes to the scorecards and the announcement. So it was one of those things where I realized that the public actually seen the fight, and I couldn't believe, I would have lost a fight like that, because I doubled him on the punch count. If you looked on the punch count, I doubled him in punches. My output was a lot more than him. And to me, it was impossible for them to get it wrong, but they did. They got it wrong. And it's just one of those things different athletes and especially boxers go through in their career.
Well, a really beautiful moment in the documentary is when you are talking about Muhammad Ali. And in 2016, you were asked to be one of the pallbearers at his funeral, along with some other pretty notable people like Will Smith, even Mike Tyson. What did you learn about life from the People's Champ?
Oh, I learned a lot from him. I learned the fact that he didn't really toot to anybody's horn but his own. He did things his way. He didn't believe in the Vietnam War, so he decided not to go. They made him suffer, but he still came out of that. He gave of himself. Even the fact that he got Parkinson's disease, you figure, champ, you got Parkinson's, he should be in a home, he should be resting. But he didn't. He gave of himself. That's what was so important. He still gave of himself. I thought that was really important. And he still loved people. He still believed in peace. And, this is what encouraged me to, put out the Lennox Lewis League of Champions to help young kids as well, so I can give back and to the next generation of athletes, especially boxers.
We love seeing that on your social media, and we love also seeing your social media filled with inspiration, for fans around the world. You called them Lennoxisms. So we're hoping that you might have a Lennoxism for us today. What should we remember to get through this time like a true champion?
Well, I got one for you. All right. Don't be an obedient target to things that may take you off of your individual goal to success. That is very important, because we're in a time of lockdown and everybody's sad and everybody is thrown back a little bit. And I'm saying, don't let this hold you back. Still focus on what you want to do.
I like this. This is going to stay with me for the rest of the day, probably longer. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thank you.
The documentary, Lennox Lewis, The Untold Story, is streaming on Crave right now. But don't go anywhere, because we're going to be right back.